What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So we're all kind of hanging out waiting to hear how much the Steam machine's gonna cost. There's a lot of concern around high price points for it, but Valve has been putting out a little bit of information here and there to start off 2026 for this new device, one of which has to do with a certain marketing badge that could end up benefiting the entire industry, and we'll go over that here today. Also, we are going to be talking about Sony and their update for the PlayStation 5 Pro, this PSSR upscaling technology that seems like has massive ramifications for their future going into next generation. Well, now we have some additional details, even when we can expect maybe this to release. And we also have Sega, who's been working more and more into their back catalog of games, one of those being Ecco the Dolphin, and it seems like they have much bigger plans than even I was expecting for this franchise revival, but we'll go over all that and more. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button, helps out a ton, and if you're new here to the Spawnwave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. Guys, we're every weekday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern time, going over the world of gaming news, trying to get you in and out on with your day in about 20 minutes. So even if there's not a video or a notification, I should say, in the morning for you, just know there's probably a video here for you to check out. And we're going to start today with God of War on Amazon, the Prime Video platform, as there is a God of War series that will be heading there here soon. And now we have the casting for Kratos that's been revealed. We can see this is over on Amazon's MGM Studios website, saying Ryan Hurst tapped to play Kratos in Prime Video's God of War from Sony Pictures Television and Amazon MGM Studios. Hurst played Thor in PlayStation's God of War Ragnarok, bringing established familiarity with the franchise to the role of Kratos. He was nominated for a BAFTA award for his performance. If you see the image, yeah, I mean, you can see Kratos there. Okay, that makes sense. The likeness and stuff. I mean, look, the thing with Kratos, with how we have digital alterations, of course, costume, makeup design, all this stuff is like top tier, super advanced. Now, I was never really concerned about the look of Kratos being correct in a live action God of War. It was always kind of be the sound almost, if they get the voice correct for Kratos, I think it'll all come together nicely here. And yeah, I think this is good casting. He has familiarity as Thor, and Thor in God of War Ragnarok, I think was reprised very, very well, especially in terms of the voice acting and stuff. So I'm on board with this. Looks good. I need to see more about it. We gotta get that first big trailer to really be able to decide what we're looking at here with God of War. So here's hoping we see that here sooner rather than later. Also, we do have a new game trial that was announced for NSO members over on the Switch 2. This we can see on Nintendo's website, saying from January 15th at 10 a.m. Pacific to January 21st at 11:59 p.m. Pacific, Nintendo Switch Online members can download and try the full EA Sports Madden NFL 26 game on the Switch 2. Now, if you do really like it, it'll be 60% off with the sale ending January 25th, 11:59 p.m. Pacific. And this is pretty standard, I feel like. They're in the playoffs now for NFL football, so they have a couple more weeks going into the Super Bowl. After the season fully ends, usually you see Madden get really cheap. Discounts, I mean, kick in like crazy, and you start to find it on that $15 shelf pretty much consistently across the board. So it seems to be a nice little push for them, get people hyped up as we head towards Super Bowl with a trial and then trying to sell it cheap here on the Switch 2. But hey, if you've been curious about it, even if you just want to try something new, I guess, on your Switch 2, you can go ahead and check that out on Game Trials. Oh, and it looks like we may know when Forza Horizon 6 is coming out, and we kind of expect the official release date reveal to happen next week on January 22nd during that Xbox Developer Direct. But we can see this is over on Xbox Era, who is citing, it looks like a person who saw a card pop up while they were playing Forza Horizon 5, and that seems like the target audience you would want to show Forza Horizon 6 to, so at least the sourcing is kind of lining up there. But they do show a release day of May 15th for early access and then May 19th for the standard edition. That also lines up with, well, Forza Horizon, they've been doing that for a long time now, even physically at retail. I remember that back in the day. People would pick it up on Wednesday instead of Friday and spend extra money to do so. But just with Microsoft's recent release strategy, where they will do that just about across the board for most of their even mid-tier games at this point, with some kind of early access fee, if you will, to start playing the game. I mean, days early, right away, a week early even. So I guess we'll find out again next week on January 22nd when that Xbox Developer Direct happens. But hey, Forza Horizon 6 might be a bit sooner than I was expecting. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with the Steam machine. Again, waiting for the pricing details right now, and it's all over the place. I'm starting to see people float $600 once again, and then there are people like, oh, it's gonna be more than $1,000. There's a very wide margin right now on how much this little box from Valve is going to cost. But there are some other things happening with this system. Specifications has been a heated debated topic right now with 8 gigabytes of VRAM. And some people have been kind of confused by this very quickly. 16 gigabytes of system memory, that would be DDR5. That is, of course, one of the big discussion points now. How much will that end up pushing the price of the Steam machine up to? Since, I mean, we see 2 RAM sticks right now, 32 gigabytes or so. It's like as much as a PS5. It's crazy. So we see that and we go, okay, well, that's not going to be cheap. But then also on the other side, 8 gigabytes of VRAM. All right, so 16 gigabytes system, DDR5 memory, 8 gigabytes of VRAM. All right. So with that in mind, 8 gigabytes of VRAM has been a concern because right now the recommendation is, people say 12. I feel like you get away with 10, but it's like 12 gigabytes or so. I mean, people have crazy video cards that are more than like 24 gigabytes of VRAM. Do you need that much to play video games? Probably not. Unless you're doing like serious professional work, then sure, you might need all that extra VRAM. But it seems like maybe the Steam machine could push some of these publishers to optimize a bit further and optimize with 8 gigabytes of VRAM in mind. So we can see this. This is over on GameDeveloper.com, saying, according to Valve designer Lawrence Yang, developers hoping for a Steam Machine verified badge can expect fewer constraints than Steam Deck verification, saying one easy rule of thumb is that if your title is verified on Steam Deck, it will be verified on Steam Machine. Now, he also goes on to say that VR developers who are looking for the Steam Frame verification, it's a different process. And yeah, you'd expect that, considering it's going to be there's going to be a whole other can of worms getting into VR and it being an all-in-one device, but then also being able to tap into, say, your Steam machine, even if you buy them together and use that to help it along. But the big focus here, the Steam machine and being able to target it for that verification badge. Now, if you look at the Steam Deck compatibility, like they have a little card that shows off what you'd be targeting. All functionality is accessible when using the default controller configuration. The game shows Steam Deck controller icons. The in-game interface text is legible on Steam Deck. This game's default graphics configuration performs well on Steam Deck. So some things they probably won't have to worry about with the Steam machine would include anything that has to do with the screen on the Steam Deck, because there's no built-in screen or LCD or OLED or anything like that. On the Steam machine, you would be plugging it into your own monitor, your own big screen TV in the living room. So that would more so be up to however you have your resolution set up, because it's going to be a wide range, I'm sure, there, or even what you want your magnification to be on your UI text, that kind of thing. You don't have a control like you do with the Steam Deck, where they know at least the resolution to expect and where they should have the text, that kind of thing. So it makes sense why, hey, if it works on the Steam Deck, in terms of the specifications that you're targeting, it's going to work on the Steam machine that's, 8 times more powerful, according to Valve, than the Steam Deck, so that checks out. But to get that badge, most likely, at least one box you'll have to tick is that it works within reason. Now, it's not going to be a box of, oh, it has to be 4K 60, like real 4K 60. You could be using FSR and all kinds of upscaling stuff to get it there, but they might be fine with 1080p 30 or 1080p 60, sure. Like, I think there's going to be some leeway with that, but the point is, it will at least have to function on the Steam machine that has 8 gigabytes of VRAM, and that means that, well, most people would then benefit from it with their video card, provided it's not, I mean, if it's a super old video card, it'd probably still benefit, because the point is to get what would be a really, really good way to market your game on Steam, since if you have the Steam Deck badge, it has a nice little check mark next to your game. If you sort in your library for Steam Deck games, it'll come up as great on Steam Deck, or if you're browsing sales, it'll do the same thing. Great on Steam Deck, and it just throws a whole list of games that you should be able to buy, and it just works. And that's kind of the idea of the Steam machine, right? If it's going to mimic a console-like experience, you want to be able to buy the game, and then it really does just work. That's kind of it. You don't have to fiddle around with too much. You still can. You can change settings, but if you don't want to do that and it has the green check mark, you'd expect it to work out of the box, and that would benefit pretty much everyone, as there'd be more optimization with that to take place. So this should hopefully work out for the better. But again, we need to see how much the Steam machine is going to cost. I will say this, if Valve gets it out and it really is $600 or $700, I think they'll have something here. So ears open. They have a good news for us when it's price reveal time in the not too distant future. Next up, let's talk about Sony's PSSR update, or their PSSR 2.0. This is supposed to be the collaboration between them and AMD with things like FSR 4, how parts of that are being pulled for this PSSR update, and it's going to really push things to the next level for Sony with the PS5 Pro. That has felt middling at best, I feel like. As someone who has a PS5 Pro, the games that do take advantage of PSSR and it doesn't break the game or anything, it is a much better experience, I think, if you have the right setup. Nice big OLED screen, 4K, VRR, the potential for 120 frames. It's all there. Like the formula is there, but they need to be able to pull it off. So I'm hoping with PSSR 2.0, we will finally see that aha moment, that realization of what they've been trying to show us through compressed YouTube videos. So we can see this though. Now this was shared by GusFan and very quickly blew up online. They have been known to relay information from behind the scenes with Sony and some of their sources, and say there's a major update for PSSR 2.0. And some of the summary of rumors and speculation and stuff. Update timing is around January to March. March is something that keeps coming up, by the way. I've seen this floated many times, some not even publicly. So maybe end of February, March, we finally see this drop. Implementation of a feature very similar to FSR 4 for PS5 Pro. Improved image quality and performance compared to before. Frame rates boosted even higher for games that were capped at 70 to 80. We're thinking they might get to that 120 mark. We'll see. Low resolution classic games also upscaled to high resolution, and then new debugging tools prepared for developers. So I want to go back one to that low resolution classic games, which are also upscaled to high resolution. That would actually be really cool, because if you play some games, like there are certain PS4 games, I think of Killzone launch title for the PS4. It still has a lot of jagged edges. It's very shimmery looking. So I'm almost wondering if this would be something that would actually work to reconstruct and smooth that out, because that would be huge for right now, just PS4 backwards compatibility. But then I'm thinking for the future. And look, again, I think a lot of people are pretty content with the visuals that we have, but who knows what things will look like in 10 years, 15 years. And I'm thinking right now with the PS4 that came out in 2013, we're coming up on, sounds weird, but in a couple of years, it will legitimately be 15 years since that PS4 came out. So you jump forward another 15 years and you go, it would be nice to smooth out some of those PS5 games, because we're all playing at 16K 3D or something. So it's nice to hear that upscaling would be continuously, I say, evolved, since that is something that will need to be done, because with the current constraints around things like DRAM, and like you got to think outside the box a bit. And I mean, Sony, I don't know if they saw it coming or something, but this does seem like the current path forward, unless you want to spend thousands and thousands of dollars on some of the hardware. And yes, that would also include game consoles here, especially going to next generation. Who knows what that's going to look like. Next up, let's talk about Ecco the Dolphin. Now, Sega did announce a few months ago that it was coming back, and it was a shock to everyone out of left field, but I love it because it's so weird and unique, and could maybe have a really interesting outing that stands out from the pack. So sure, why not? Let's see what they can do with an Ecco the Dolphin game, but not just one game. So there was a press release that went out, this over on PR Newswire, and they say A&R Atelier announced today that Ecco the Dolphin is officially in development. Great. Originally released in 1992, Ecco the Dolphin garnered critical and commercial acclaim at launch. Now, this is a quote from Ed Annunziata, who says, "It has been announced, or has been years in the making, and we're honored to bring Ecco back." This is the chief creative officer at A&R, saying, "Ecco has always been more than a game about a dolphin. He's a bridge between worlds." While specific details are still under wraps, A&R is pleased to share that, in fact, several new Ecco the Dolphin products and games are currently in development. Information regarding these upcoming projects and partnerships will be announced at EchoTheDolphin.com as developments unfold. By the way, I took a look at the website. It's not phoned in. There's quite a bit going on. They have sound. It's a whole thing there. So that's kind of cool. Additionally, A&R has launched the official Ecco the Dolphin Discord servers, where fans and newcomers can connect with developers and join the community hub for all things Ecco. So like I said, I really, really love seeing the fact that Ecco is going to try to make some kind of return here soon. And I say soon, it feels like this is a very early on announcement of them going, hey, it's happening, it's coming back. Sega, no problem doing that, by the way, since we're still waiting for whatever Jet Set Radio is going to turn in here, again, hopefully soon. I'd like to see Jet Set Radio this year. But at the very least, Ecco the Dolphin games. So not even just one, like, oh, we'll try it, we'll see what happens. Products in games, as in Sega maybe sees a pretty big future for Ecco the Dolphin, and maybe that is because there's just not a lot of games like Ecco the Dolphin right now, and in some way, that is a big advantage for it because it will stand out. Now, I was playing Maneater years ago when that came out, and as I was playing, I went, it feels like this could be kind of an Ecco the Dolphin-like game. Had some RPG elements to it. Sure, it's a way to have a gameplay loop that keeps people invested and wanting to play more and more. But even like the controls and sort of the art style, all of that I kind of feel like would fit Ecco the Dolphin. And now technology significantly more advanced than the last Ecco that came out. That was back on the PS2. And that was a weird one because it didn't come out in Japan, but it came out in Europe and the US, a PS2 game. Not common, like I said, but still, Ecco the Dolphin, I'm here for it. I'm really excited to see what they have up their sleeve, because not just one game, two. Does that mean we're going to get a turn-based RPG for Ecco the Dolphin? I don't know. Maybe they got some weird stuff planned. It could be a first-person shooter for all I know. So, hey, exciting stuff, though. We'll probably find out in a few years. As I mentioned, we're probably still a ways off from it. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about PlayStation Plus Extra and Premium, as we do have those now announced for January. We can see this is over on PlayStation Blog. We'll start at the top. These games will be available to play January 20th, and it's Resident Evil Village. Interesting, because that also went to Game Pass at the same time, I think the same day even here on January 20th. Anyway, that's PS5 and PS4. We have Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. Great addition here for the service, PS5 and PS4. Expeditions, a Mud Runner game, PS5, PS4. A Quiet Place, The Road Ahead, it's on PS5. Darkest Dungeon 2, PS5 and PS4. The Exit 8, PS5 and PS4, Art of Rally, that's PS5 and PS4, and then a little to the left on the PS5 and the PS4. Moving to PlayStation Plus Premium. Only one title, kind of a shame. I'd like to see multiple titles in a month from Sony for this, but still, Ridge Racer. Not the original, I mean, kinda, that was on the arcade back in the day, but they did port it over to the PS1, have the frame rate to 30 FPS and released it, but here we are now, decades later. Ridge Racer on the PS5 coming January 20th, and look, it was awesome back then because it was early days of 3D. I'm sure there's many people who are going to turn that on and be like, what am I looking at, and turn it off. But hey, you know what? For the nostalgia itself, I will be firing up Ridge Racer at least a couple of times to see how it's done. It'll still have like up rendering, rewind, quick save, and custom video filters, the whole thing. So I'd like to see more for PlayStation Plus Premium, but that's a fun game to see added in, if nothing else, just for the history of the franchise. Overall, though, not a bad month. Resident Evil Village, that's a good get, as well as Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, another good one if you haven't played it. So there we have it, PlayStation Plus Extra and Premium for January. And before we go to the comment of the day, we'll take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday. That's Game of the Year Madness. Claire Obscure Expedition 33 versus Citizen Sleeper 2. I mean, look. What do you want me to do? It's Claire Obscure. What do you want me to do? Expedition 33, I think people figured was going to run over Citizen Sleeper 2, but hey, Citizen Sleeper 2 still got 12% of the vote of like the 14,000 or so people. There you go. I mean, look, this is going to be the case, I think, for Expedition 33 for a few rounds, and that's what happens when you get the number one seed, you know? I mean, Citizen Sleeper 2 did beat the Alters, you know, it had a win. It got a win under its belt, but yeah, Expedition 33, kind of the juggernaut that we were all expecting it to be at this time, so probably not until, honestly, the final four that we see it challenged in some way. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Ronbot, who says, I also rented Quest 64 for Weekend and beat it just before returning it. I also convinced myself it was a good game despite all my frustrations and lack of sleep that weekend. That's the thing, though. When we rented a game from Blockbuster, Hollywood Video, wherever, right? The Movie King, the local movie rental store even, right? You go in, you could only judge it by usually the cover art. Sometimes you could flip it over and see the manual through the clear plastic case, but typically it was right then and there you had to make the snap decision. So when you went home, you wanted to convince yourself that you made the correct snap decision. And there were many times you didn't, but you still convinced yourself you did. Quest 64 was one of those games. So was Mario's Missing. The whole time, I'm like, man, they want to know a lot about history, but this is a video game, and it's the weekend, and I'm not here to learn. But it really wanted to teach me stuff, and I kept acting like it wasn't a learning game. But I did my best with that one, and yeah, I did my best with Quest 64. But that's just how it was. It was you, that game, the weekend, 48 hours or so of just, as you mentioned, you can get a lot of sleep, just nonstop playing, trying to get through the game before you had to take it back to the rental store Sunday night. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. If you missed yesterday's Newswave, I'll leave it up here in a card. Or maybe you want to hear some of my predictions for gaming in 2026. I did an entire video going over that, and I'll leave it right below. Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.